Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa. With me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Khartoum residents are desperate for respite after 6 days of warfare between rival military forces. The militaries ruled out negotiations with the RSF. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis deepens. Also, 2 years after Palma in northern Mozambique was captured by extremists and forced out energy giant Total, an improvement to security there means that operations on a multi-billion-dollar gas project could resume. And cattle prices are through the roof in Mali. Inflation weighs heavily on shoppers looking to stock up for Eid. But first, Sudan's militaries ruled out negotiations with the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, paramilitary that it's been battling since Saturday. Attempts at ceasefires this week have failed, and in Khartoum, many have been trapped at home by the urban warfare. Thursday saw a huge increase in those trying to flee the city. At least 330 civilians have been killed in this week's explosion of violence.
Billows in the distance near Khartoum International Airport. The escalation in violence in recent days impacting residents in the Sudanese capital the most. With the airport now closed, getting humanitarian assistance into the country by air is impossible. Medics are warning a catastrophic healthcare problem is looming.
The primary challenge that we face is not the availability of hospitals or not. It's how we can get the sick to these hospitals, how we can get the wounded to these hospitals due to the dangers of the security situation. Getting the wounded there, getting the medical and health teams there, getting the medical supplies to these hospitals, all of this is very difficult.
Sudan's military has ruled out talks with the rival paramilitary force for now. Residents in the capital, meanwhile, remain cloistered in their homes to stay safe.
Shelling hasn't stopped in the areas of conflict in Khartoum, which are even hard to define at the moment. But there are places that are, we can say, worse than others. But at the same time, we can't say that there's any one place that is really safe.
The international community have called on both sides in the conflict to lay down their weapons and talk. And while some residents in Khartoum try to get to safety, foreign nationals remain in limbo with the airspace over Sudan closed for now.
Sudan's hospitals are overwhelmed and several have been bombed. Dr. Zahir Salul heads up the humanitarian organisation Med Global. Earlier, he shared what staff on the ground have said about the damage done to Sudan's healthcare system.
It's horrible. Two-thirds of the hospitals in the capital Khartoum and its surrounding, which serve about one-third of the population, have been closed, forced to close, either because of the low medical supplies or because that they are targeted and bombed. That means people do not have access to health care. Patients who are injured are not able to be transported to the hospitals. Doctors and nurses are not able to go to their hospitals to perform surgeries and provide treatment for their patients. The situation is catastrophic. There is a large number of people who are injured and people who are dying every day, and the official numbers that we have are much less than the real numbers.
We've been talking for a couple of days now about the imminent potential collapse of Sudan's healthcare system. What for you does that mean, both from the medical perspective and also within, in terms of the wider impact it would have on the dynamics of this conflict?
Our team on the ground that has been working in Sudan for the past 4 years is not able to leave their homes. That means many people who are trapped, people with chronic diseases, hypertension, diabetes, COPD, won't be able to get their medications. Children cannot get vaccinations. Pregnant women cannot get C-sections or have delivery. Patients who have cancer cannot get chemotherapy. And of course, injured people or patients cannot get surgeries, life-saving surgeries. So two-thirds of the hospitals are closed because of the bombing and because of the shortage of medical supplies and shortage of diesel fuel. And also many of the other hospitals, which is about 10 hospitals in capital Khartoum, may close in the next 24 or 48 hours. That means the population will not have access to health care, and that will lead to displacement and other problems.
And are you concerned specifically about the hospitals in Khartoum? What about what's happening elsewhere in the country? Have you had any information about that?
Other hospitals in Darfur and also in the state of Kordofan have been attacked. The World Health Organization so far counted 11 attacks on healthcare facilities, hospitals, ambulances, doctors, and nurses. And it looks like this is a pattern of targeting healthcare providers and hospitals, which is, of course, against the Geneva Conventions and the international humanitarian law, and will lead to more displacement of the population and suffering. And this has to stop. This has to stop, and the fighting party should respect medical neutrality and should respect the right of patients and doctors to treat their patients and the right of transporting injured people to the hospital and getting treatment.
So are you getting the sense that medical infrastructure is being deliberately targeted, or is it the collateral damage of urban warfare?
We've seen instances of systematic targeting of healthcare facilities in Syria by the Syrian government and Russia, and also in Ukraine by Russia. And this will lead to huge displacement of the population. Half of the population in Syria have been displaced. So far, we're seeing also displacement of Sudanese population to the neighboring countries because of fighting and because of targeting of civilians and hospitals and disruption of supply chain. And that will lead, this could be just collateral damage, as you have mentioned, but it could be also systematic to pressure the other party for concession or to prevent the injured from the other party from getting treated.
Dr. Zahir Salouleh, the president of the organisation Med Global. In other news, Uganda's president held off from signing a new homophobic bill into law and has sent it back to Parliament for amendments. The controversial proposal prescribes the death penalty in some cases and would introduce some of the most draconian legislation of its kind in the world. Yoweri Museveni's lawyers reportedly advised him not to sign it. He's under international pressure to veto it. The US is warned of economic blowback if the legislation is enacted. Energy giant Total is keeping a close watch on the security situation in the north of Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province. It's considering resuming operations of a liquefied natural gas project that it withdrew from in a rush in 2021 because of a jihadist incursion. Our team reports.
It was in this hotel that 180 people took refuge when Palma was captured by jihadist insurgents in March 2021. Those stuck here were evacuated by the Mozambican government, but not before 7 people died in the terrorist attack. Though the spectre of the attack still haunts the community and business has been slow, this hotel's manager remains optimistic.
It is a traumatic experience, but I also think that because there's so much potential in this area, people are quite eager to come back, and I think we've got the Rwandan military here now who are helping the Mozambicans. So I think that makes people feel a lot more secure.
2,800 Rwandan soldiers have been sent to the region. They operate discreetly, only exiting their barracks to patrol or to get supplies. They're seldom seen in the city centre. Today, Palma appears to be a normal town. Its market is well stocked and the surrounding villages have been gradually rebuilt. But locals can't forget that there remains a threat of extremist violence, even if it's elsewhere in the province.
If the government said tomorrow that the war in Mozambique was over, I would feel 100% safe. But that's not what we hear from our leaders, our ministers.
Humanitarian organizations would also like to relocate to Palma. The need is great because the city has expanded to 75,000 inhabitants.
There must be 110,000 people in Palma now, so you can see that not only are there a lot of people who have returned, but there are also new internally displaced people coming from other districts.
If people are flocking to Palma, it is because the area is secure. As far as Afungi, the site where Total plans to restart its $20 billion gas project. But the centre and south of Cabo Delgado province are still very volatile. Authorities of the province in Pemba are still hoping to see Total restart the crucial energy plan soon.
The CEO of Total has already been here. He has been to Palma. He's been to Mozambique. He's already been here in the province. His visit indicates that the plan to resume activities is underway.
Northern Mozambique is more stable than it was 2 years ago, but Total has still not announced plans for its return.
Muslims around the world are preparing to celebrate the end of the holy month of Ramadan. That's marked with 3 special days known as Eid al-Fitr. But price increases have weighed heavily on shoppers, and in Mali, the cost of livestock has shot up, with inflation leaving markets quieter than usual. Caroline Lambolet tells us more.
It's already late in the afternoon, but many customers at this livestock market in the Malian capital are still haggling for a deal as they prepare to feast for several days. This year, Eid comes at a time when many were already struggling with high food prices.
The market is very, very expensive. We've been here since 2 p.m. to buy a cow. We even looked at calves. They're going for 200,000 to 350,000 CFA francs. We've got 300,000 francs. But there are 15 of us, so we need at least 1 ox in order to satisfy everyone. The reality is, we can't afford it.
300,000 CFA francs. That's around 450 euros. Much more than what many people make on a monthly basis in Mali, one of the world's poorest countries. But breeders say they have little choice but to raise their prices.
The high cost of livestock starts in the countryside. On top of that, there are maintenance costs. You can't walk with your livestock anymore. You need to find a means of transport. For this, you have to pay for loading and unloading. And they need to eat, and cattle feed is very expensive. And on top of that, you have to eat too. You need to take all of this into account.
According to the UN, 45,000 people are one step away from famine in the Sahel region. Around 2,500 of them are in Mali, a situation driven by conflict, climate shocks, the pandemic, and high food prices.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.
For the 3rd year running, Revisited takes you on a tour of the monumental Notre Dame project, a challenging, enormous, yet fascinating undertaking.
C'est un chantier qui est compliqué, mais en même temps, on fout toutes nos tripes dedans, donc c'est que du bonheur. C'est un chef-d'œuvre en fait.
We meet the craftsman in charge of recreating Viollet-le-Duc's famous spire, the centrepiece of the reconstruction, but also the many different tradespeople breathing life back into the cathedral.
Les visiteurs qui rentreront dans la cathédrale dans un peu plus d'1 an, eh bien, ils découvriront une cathédrale telle qu'on ne l'avait jamais vue de mémoire de nos contemporains.
Watch Notre Dame Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.